You guys were really stoked about the last episode that we did. That was in this vein. So we're going to continue this trend.
Okay.
Look, tell us what you like. We'll give you more of it.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you communicate.
The 5 things that can help professionals and coaches build trust and commitment with clients. The first one. Well, before we do that, I know why this is important. I bet you can imagine as the listener here why this is important. But why is this important, especially very early in the relationship, Larry?
The more trust someone has for you, the easier it is to get them to do something. That can sound weird to someone listening to this, so let's substantiate that. Everything we're talking about here presumes that you have nothing but the best of intentions for anyone that you are going to get to do something. Right? Any parent listening knows that anytime you've tried to get your kid to do something, it was because your intentions were the best for them. It was for their own good and for yours, most likely. So anytime you hear us talking about earning trust and the easier it is to get someone to do something, the better for both of you, it all presumes great intentions. There is an inverse relationship between the amount of trust someone has for you and the amount of energy it costs to get them to do something you want them to do.
That's important to highlight. Say that again.
There's an inverse relationship between how much trust someone has for you and how much energy it will cost you to get them to do something. So what that means is the more trust someone has for you, the easier it will be to get them to do something. That's why trust is important, because if someone's your client, you want them to do what you want them to do, because what they're hiring you for is to tell them what to do to make their life better. But everyone here knows that clients aren't always super easy. Things happen. Life happens. And people respond to things differently, not only from person to person, but from week to week and month to month in their life. So the more trust we have, the easier it'll be to get them to move.
One of the things that you had highlighted, the difference between the intent and intention there. It's, to me, that's the difference between motivation and manipulation. What's the intent that you have in trying to get somebody to do something? Is it something that you want them to do for them? That's motivation. Something that you want them to do for me, that's manipulation.
That's an important difference.
So we've got 5 things here. I want to talk about the first one, establishing early rapport. First, what does that mean?
So you know who Robert Cialdini is? He wrote the book Influence.
Yes.
Psychology of Persuasion.
Yep. I use that Harvard printer study very often as a reference.
Okay. He wrote that book in 84, I think, 85, and it was a dud. It was a dud. His publisher was like, we need to pull all funding from this, because I think he quoted it as saying, anything else would be just throwing money in a pit.
Wow.
Because the field of social psychology and social science, it wasn't as big as it is today, especially as the field of behavioral economics hadn't been developed yet. So there weren't enough business people, in short. There wasn't enough money that wanted to be spent on what he had to say.
He was ahead of his time.
He was ahead of his time. So that guy, by the way, it's one of the greatest selling books in social science of all time. That guy most recently wrote a book called Persuasion. And it's the psychology about how cultivating fertile ground for an ask goes a really long way to the ask going the way that you want it to go. And the whole premise here is what comes first is going to set the tone for how everything else goes. So what comes early will strongly affect what comes thereafter.
Is that similar to first impressions?
It's exactly first impressions. That's exactly what we're talking about here. So you talked on a recent episode about the SOPs of communicating and matriculating people from working one-on-one to moving through a more hands-off approach where they're more autonomous. And you talked about highlighting early wins. We're talking about the same thing here. So when there is a strong connection that the client is really energized by early, it's going to make everyone's job way easier. So this early development of them trusting you, them feeling safe, first and foremost, always, them feeling connected to you, them feeling like you actually see them, you actually hear them, you really understand them feeling capable of opening up, and frankly, them being inspired by you, that happening early is going to go a long way to making your job really easy. And it's really important.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good description of the why. I want to get into the nuts and bolts a little bit. You know, I love the process side. So what is this establishing early rapport? Let's start with, what does that mean?
So I think that the establishment of rapport means the establishment of what feels like a relationship that both people are happy to be in. So think about the people that you enjoy spending the most time with. You guys have a really strong rapport. Think about the people that you tease and that you feel good being teased by. That doesn't happen unless there's really good rapport.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good litmus test. If you guys are teasing each other, you guys have a really strong rapport. If you don't feel like you can tease someone or that someone would feel comfortable teasing you, rapport is developing. Right? So that's what that means and what that would look like. Okay. When we think about 3 easy examples of how to develop it, I have 3 here for you.
Great.
The first one would be any time you can bring up something personal that they've shared with you. And here's the kicker. That wasn't or isn't the center point of the conversation. Because it means you're actually listening, and it means you're actually affected by this person. And the truth is, if you're not genuinely interested in the person in front of you, they shouldn't be your client. So an example of this might be something like, I know that this was just an aside, but how did that meeting with the lawyer go last week?
It could be something that felt like a throwaway that they were just informing you on, but you're using the time, the energy to remember that.
It could have been the reason that they were just sharing as why they were late to a thing, whatever it was. It wasn't the point of the conversation. If they share that this thing happened last week that was costing energy, or it was a preoccupation of theirs, it was an important to do, but it's not the center point of your work, and you noticed it, it was certainly a contributing factor to how everything's going. The fact that you remember that and care to ask about it's gonna speak volumes to people.
Okay, that's the first one. What's next?
So second one is any other important date or event that they've told you straightforwardly is something that is important to them. So in other words, there's a throwaway thing that they described, like, I took my dog to the vet, or my husband has to go do this thing for his job next week. It's just ancillary information. Them telling you, I have a doctor appointment that I'm feeling really nervous about next week. That's a little different, right? You asking about and talking about that is going to go a long way to developing rapport and trust early.
I can see that. What's next?
Last one would be you, again, expressing your genuine curiosity about anything you happen to be genuinely curious about. So an example here that I have for you is their motivation for starting this, whether it's before or 5 sessions in. If something comes up to you that you're genuinely curious about, you asking that is going to mean a lot to them, because people want to know that people find them interesting. People want to be interesting to people. I think we all crave attention and feeling important. And someone being genuinely curious about you is going to really push that button in a big way.
It's an easy hack to demonstrate care.
That's a great way to say it.
Okay. Yeah. So we have establishing early rapport, some great examples of that. Anything else on early rapport?
No, I just think that getting them early and often are important. And the truth is, you're feeling each other out in this phase, but you're the leader here. So you need to be doing a lot of this connection. You need to be taking these shots here, and it's going to help both of you. You're going to feel more comfortable, and the more comfortable you feel, the easier it's going to be for them to feel comfortable. So it serves both of you to do this.
One thing that we had talked about that I didn't hear was the importance of using their name. Why use somebody's name versus bud, big dog, like pal?
Well, I mean, I think that we've both heard that, like, the sweetest sound in any language is just someone's name, right? I mean, it's like, I don't know, I could get weird about it, but what, our parents were like cooing it in our ears as early as we possibly could, right? It's like the first sound that means like, hey, you're a part of this thing and you matter and you're here and we care about you. I think people's names goes a long way, first towards getting their attention and letting them know you're serious about paying attention to them and what you're addressing.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, number 2, follow through on promises.
Yeah, I think that you could speak really well to this. The idea that you do what you say you're going to do is, in my opinion, it's one of the basic tenets of being a person if you're going to be trustworthy. It's, you know how you don't keep your gym clean because you want people to notice how clean it is, but you should keep your gym or your space clean so that no one notices how dirty it is. It's the same thing. It's almost like, you know, one thing that I really appreciate about this company is everyone performs so highly that it's become a for granted. And we really notice it when people don't. And I love that. People are going to expect that you're doing a really good job and you're following through on what you say you're going to do. And that is going to make it effortless for them to want to keep paying you year after year after year. People who don't follow through on their promises very quickly erode trust, and those people are not going to be in business for long. Period. You're going to lose one customer after the other. So unless you want to be playing this high volume, high turnover game of new business in which you lose trust and then it goes, you should make sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, and only say what you know you can follow through on.
Say more about that.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, and this could be a throwaway. It could seem like a throwaway to you, but let's say that we have a session with a client. And we say, I'm going to reach out to you tomorrow and see how you feel. And then you don't do that.
Yeah. It sucks.
It sucks for them. It sucks for you because you're going to think about it the day after and be like, ah, shit. I told them that I was going to do that. And now you have to play the makeup game with them when you see them in person. Be like, I meant to text you, all these things, blah, blah, blah. So if you're going to do this, make sure that you have the system to follow through with it.
That's it. I have some examples of this. Great. That I can think of. First one. Let's say that you promised you were going to send a resource or make a call or send a note or something like that. It's something that's, let's say it's later that night, or you said you were going to send it at 12 p.m. tomorrow at the latest. If you're sending it at 10 a.m. saying, hey, here's that article that I mentioned. I thought this is going to help with some of these questions. Let me know if this is confusing to you at all. You've just done what you said you're going to do. Trust goes up. You're more reliable, right? Another one is you checking in with each other as you've agreed upon. If you have a scheduled meeting or you say you're going to reach out to talk about a certain thing in a certain time, you do it. If you're 2 minutes late, you apologize for your lateness. 2 minutes late. This is why giving, like you said, only what you know you can do is important. Now, whether you say, I'm going to call you at 4 p.m. and then their phone is ringing at 4, or you say, I'm going to have a space between 4 and 6, and I have some flexible things. I know I'll be able to call you within there. Is that a fair window? Yeah, that's no problem. Okay, I will call you between 4 and 6. It's going to be by 6 at the latest. And then you hit them in that range. But you need to decide that you're going to tell them what you're going to do, and then you're going to do that. This has a lot to do with that solid talk and soft talk that you've done so much studying about and so much teaching about, right? Being very clear about what you're describing.
Yeah, I like even if you're 2 minutes late. This will happen sometimes when we do a discovery call, and I might be 2 minutes late, and that's the first thing that I say is, thank you so much for your patience. I apologize for being 2 minutes late. Yeah,
I really like being on time. I appreciate you being graceful about it, for sure.
What's another example here?
Oh, another one is just this is one that I think goes overlooked. So I wanted to include this. A lot of times there are pieces of progress or change that you see in ways that your clients don't. In other words, they don't know the ways that you see things are going well or not. So an example of this is updating them on progress that you see or any changes that you're making. So if your thinking has changed, if your direction has changed, if you've made some decisions that you believe are going to be important, if they're impactful to the client, you should share them so they feel like they're on the same page. And some people are going to care about this more than others, but keeping them updated on decisions that you're making shows that you're following through with being on the same page as them. It's being on their page. And by the way, it's for some people, it's going to be, hey, we're doing this. And they're going to be like, great, I don't want to hear about it. Other people, it's going to be, these are some of the things I think are most important for us to be addressing going forward. What are your thoughts on this? Does this make sense to you?
That's a really interesting idea. And I like how you tied it to following through on the promise, because initially I wasn't thinking, okay, how is this an example of following through? But I believe you did a really good job of articulating that.
Perfect.
The third one, demonstrate consistency.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
This is one that I've struggled with in the past, and I think in many ways I still work on. Consistency means you're doing well every time. Everyone wants 100%, but it means that you're doing a good job all the time. If you slip up here or you slip up there, that's completely normal. It's expected. And by and large, it's forgivable all the times that you slip up if you're putting an effort to do a good job the rest of the time. The more comprehensively you do a good job, the more forgivable it is when you make a mistake. So being consistent means if you decide that something is going to go a certain way, and that's agreed upon, most importantly, you are consistently doing what has been agreed upon. If you have a client that's going to be paying you a lot of money, especially if you're in the market where you're not looking for short-term clients, but you're looking to help people over the long term with the goal after the goal after the goal, they're going to expect a certain way of doing things from you. And that familiarity and reliability is something that's going to make them feel good. It's going to make them feel safe. It's going to feel like they can show up and hang their hat on the structure you've created. If you break that structure, you're breaking rapport and you're disintegrating trust. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So in a training aspect, working with clients, one of the examples here could be not starting or ending sessions on time.
Exactly. Like if you guys have a session at 10 and that's on Tuesdays and Fridays, be there 10 to 15 minutes early. And even if you're early, but you have some stuff to do, it's letting them know briefly, just give me a few moments. I'm going to get a couple things together. I'll be right with you if they're waiting for that. And it's no later than 10, being in front of them saying, ready to go, and then beginning the thing. Starting and ending sessions on time consistently, meaning every session you're starting and ending on time, is going to go a long way towards developing trust.
What are some other examples here of this demonstrating consistency?
Yeah. So after getting started and ending on time, the second one is you being stable and grounded energetically and emotionally, so that as your client has ups and downs, they know that you're going to be an even keel. This is crucial. So I don't know if you've thought about this at all, or you've heard about this or whatever it is, but I think a lot about toddlers at a playground, and how one of the things that's important for toddlers to feel courageous enough to go about an adventure and explore is checking in to see that their parent, or what's the other word, their guardian, that their guardian is there and steady. So if you see the way a toddler will do this, they'll look and they'll check in with their parent. They'll go out and play a little bit. They'll stop when they're at the limit to where they've been in space. They'll turn around. They'll see if they're there. They might even run up to them, just get some reassurance, and then they'll go a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. If the parent were moving around, or if the parent were weird, the toddler would probably just sit and look at them and cry, or just like be really unnervous or uneasy. It happens all the time. Us being stable and grounded allows your client the sense of safety that they can have highs and lows. And that's going to keep them moving forward. If you think about a stock market line that's going up or down, like whether it's going up or down, the next point's always forward, right? So that's going to help your client feel forward. So you being consistent in your tone and your energy and your mood is going to help them a lot.
I've described this to the team at the flagship as there are three types of people in these scenarios. There are jetties, buoys, and surfboards.
Jetties, buoys, and surfboards.
A jetty is always going to be in the same place in space, no matter what crashes against them.
For our landlocked folks, a jetty is a pile of rocks up against the beach that prevents a bunch of water from eroding all the sand. It's a long pile of rocks.
Always going to be there regardless of the storm, whatever crashes against them. The buoy is going to end up in the same spot after some time, but they're going to ebb and flow a little bit with the emotions of the client, or whether the client's having a good day, seeing progress or not. They'll come back, but they're going to see some sway. They're going to ride the wave a little bit. And then the surfboard is unregulated emotionally. They're going to ride the highs and lows with the client.
Be a jetty.
Be a jetty.
Yeah. definitely be a Jetty. I would agree with that. I like that. Okay.
Anything else in consistency?
Yeah, another one that I can think of is check-in questions. So like when the session starts, I mean, I'm asking the same few questions for everyone all the time. First thing I'm asking is, how are you feeling today? How'd you sleep? When's the last time you ate? Depending on the, did you eat enough? What'd you eat? How much water have you had today? How does your joint feel? If we're talking about a specific joint, I'm asking them what else is significant to report. How, depending on the person and the context, how's your stress this week? How'd that thing at work go? This goes back to asking about relevant information, right? The same check-in questions each week are going to give you the same baseline. It's going to give people a really clear understanding that we're here to do something that matters, and I need to be accountable to this information.
Have you ever had anybody who said, why are you asking me the same questions every time?
No.
I think that's important to highlight because in my mind, it's like, okay, I need to come up with a question of the day. I need to come up with something new and exciting, something that better gets different information.
No, my clients and I always have fun, but they're not signed up for fun. Mm-hmm. They're signed up for progress. Mm. We have fun along the way, but we're here to do business. And in order for me to do my job, I need this information.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else on consistency? Showing up consistently?
No, I mean, I think that those are three examples that we can spin a lot from if you just give it 2 minutes of reflection. Yep.
It's great. All right. Number 4, setting and respecting boundaries.
Yeah. I think a lot of coaches struggle with this.
Why do you think that's true?
Well, I think that as a lot of, the coaching industry, as we know right now, doesn't make it easy for most to succeed. 80% of personal trainers and coaches quit within the first 2 years of starting. And I think that people who go through the rigors of becoming exceptional in their field have an easier time establishing boundaries because they end up with a respectful client base. They're sought after. They earn the kind of money that they want and need to feel good. They don't need to scratch and claw and supplicate to get what they need. They just do good work, and they have an on-off switch. If you think about the plumber, the lawyer, the accountant, when they go home, they go home. And, statistically, most coaches haven't yet figured out what's required to have the kind of career that pays them what they want and feel restful about that. So I think that oftentimes coaches struggle to set boundaries because too many coaches are in a position where they need to do whatever they can to get the next business they can get. And that makes it hard to set boundaries. That's actually what's going to make you erode your integrity and your boundaries and people please to the point that you're getting new business. And that's unhealthy for you.
It might seem counterintuitive in the beginning. Having these boundaries is actually what helps to create the professionalism and the success that you're looking for, rather than having those porous boundaries where you're responding to a client at 8:00 at night via text message, as an example.
Yep. So an example of that is even before a client's becoming a client, it's letting them know a session could last up to 60 minutes. Might be less, but it'll never be more. Just letting them know. This is the time boundary of our sessions, right? Another example is setting any boundaries around your communication. So you can always text me. I'll answer texts around this stuff between this hour and this hour. And you can always expect it within 24 hours.
Yep.
Right? Another one is respecting boundaries of theirs. Letting them know that modeling that they should set boundaries. Hey, by the way, if there's anything that you're not ready to discuss, that's okay. And if it's not now, I respect that. Should we move on from this from now? Yes. Is it okay if I ask you from time to time, see if anything's changed? Or would you prefer to just volunteer it? Ask them. Show them that they can set boundaries and that they're okay for having them.
That'll carry over into other areas of their life.
More than you can imagine. That's the stuff that changes people's lives. That's the stuff that makes people say, I came for a shoulder to feel better, but I got so much more than I expected. I don't really know how to describe it. This person's that's the thing that makes you become a household name. Yeah.
Any other examples here of setting and respecting boundaries?
I don't know. I mean, if any come to mind for you, but I feel like those are three pretty good ones.
Great. 5, the fifth and final, creating a safe and non-judgmental space.
Yeah. I thought that it was going to be easy when I was starting out in this to just get someone feeling as energized and as focused on them getting to work as I was ready to. And I discounted how many people feel really uncomfortable starting a process like this when they've struggled for so long. And I think that a lot of people have a lot of stories around what's wrong with them, especially when they compare themselves to what the industry is showing or what billboards or magazines are showing. And it can become really easy for someone to be withdrawn, closed off, reluctant to share things, ashamed, guilty, and you letting them know that this is a place where, look, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you. And there isn't anything that you can say that would make me uncomfortable or be less motivated to help you. Specifically, I should edit that to say there isn't anything that you can share about what you're struggling with that will make me less motivated to help you.
Sure.
Right?
That's a good edit.
Yeah. If someone told me, hey, I'm planning on murdering your mom, and I don't like this at all, I would say we should probably send you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then immediately call 911. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I mean by letting them know that, look, we all have our shit, and it's okay that you're struggling with those things here. That's what we're here for.
What are some other examples here?
Another one could be you making sure that you're avoiding judgmental language and teaching them to avoid judgmental language. Go ahead.
Like the good and the bad.
Good and bad are the most simple, beaten to death judgmental words ever. We are like so preoccupied and so unconsciously using good and bad to describe things all the time. And I just think it's so detractive. I don't think it helps at all. My life got way better when I literally decided to stop using the words good and bad. I don't describe things as good or bad anymore. I really don't. I mean, I'll tell my dog good boy.
Tell Cleary good boy.
Yeah, I'll tell Cleary good boy. But I won't describe that someone's a good or a bad anything. I won't describe that something is a good or a bad anything. I don't do it anymore. And the reason I don't do it is because I don't have some sort of objective measure of whether something is fundamentally good or bad. What I do is describe whether or not something's favorable to me or not. I might just say, I won't say he's a good guy. I'll say I really like him. And I'll talk about the things that I like. I'll talk about the actions. I'll talk about the things that I've noticed, the reflections that I have that I like. I won't describe someone as overwhelmingly good or bad. And it's the same reason that I won't let someone say that I have a bad knee. You don't have a bad knee. You have a knee that doesn't do this very well. And it needs to be able to do this better. It really brings the thing into focus, and it shrinks the problem, doesn't it? When you say you don't have a bad knee, you have a knee that doesn't do this well.
Right.
It's a little different.
It's the client who says, I have a knee injury. And they walk into your facility, they drove there, they walked across the street, they can squat, they can do some things, they can do some movement, they go up and down stairs. They can't do X, they can't run without their knee blowing up. But the story that they have and they're perpetuating is that I have an injury or I have a bad knee.
Yep. It could be the same thing as saying, like, not letting them lose, like, look, let's look at what happened for a second without calling the whole thing bad. So you're saying that you're bad at your job. You're saying that you have a bad boss. You're saying that you're bad at this. You're saying that this was a bad month. What does that mean? Because what I'm hearing is you, and I wouldn't say this like this, but what this means is you lack the vocabulary and maybe even the mental clarity right now because of your emotional state to describe exactly what it is that you struggled with and what your frustration was in a productive way. And when you can do that with and for them, when you can distill what the problem was from just this was a bad month, the problem gets way smaller. You can externalize it and put it in front of them, and you can give them something that they can work on. You can give them something that they can feel they're powerful in the face of.
Well, it creates a tremendous amount of clarity.
Yeah.
And with that clarity comes options.
That's it. Options.
Okay. What else for this creating the safe and non-judgmental space? What other examples do we have here?
The biggest one that I can think of is just making sure that I'm consistently modeling what it looks like to communicate completely, directly, vulnerably, honestly, and completely about something. Showing them that and encouraging them to do it, that's where all the growing is going to happen.
What would an example of that communicating completely, honestly, openly, and vulnerably, what might that sound like?
Yeah. It could sound like, can I be honest with you about something? Sure. I'm a little bit concerned about how much you have struggled to be honest with your husband about these things that are challenging you. And from what you've shared, you guys typically communicate well, and your husband sounds like a great guy. I've met him enough to see that he seems kind enough. And I'm concerned about what happens if you just decide to altogether avoid talking to him about this.
Starts to bring some things into their awareness that they might not be thinking about.
And I'll just leave it at that. I'll see where that person goes. But that shows that, one, I'm willing to go there. And if I could do that in a calm way, the person's going to feel safe going there. They might not feel comfortable with the conversation. They might hurt a little bit, and they might not want to talk about it right now. But they're going to know that they're safe to.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable distinction to parse apart, the comfortability versus the safe.
Yeah.
Being comfortable and safe are not the same thing.
Safety precludes comfort, your ability to face uncomfortable things. Like you don't go to a therapist or a doctor or a lawyer to discuss your problems if you don't feel safe doing it there. Safety's the bedrock. I think we've talked about that.
Yeah. Okay. So our 5 things: number 1, establishing early rapport. 2, follow through on promises. 3, demonstrate consistency. Number 4, setting and respecting boundaries. And 5, creating a safe, non-judgmental space.
Sounds good to me.
Is there anything else that the awesome people listening to this need to know on this topic?
Just be honest with yourself. Look at these and audit them and say, which one of these do I suck at the most? And just get a few percentage points better at it. It's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, a little bit goes a long way.
A long way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you made it this far in the episode, I'm imagining it's because you found some value in it. If that's true, do us a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share it. Every person that hears this helps us grow the podcast.
Small gesture that gets you guys big things.
Yes. Thanks, Larry.
Bye, Cody.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you are going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.